Hello there, this is the Shadow Ranger. I'm back with a video. This is kind of a response to someone that I chatted with on Twitter a few times. It's something I've been thinking about doing a video on, but this tweet that this guy did is sort of wasn't enough to get me going. And I told him I'd respond to it, but I don't feel like typing, so I'm doing this in audio form. This is on Twitter, SpudJohnson on Twitter. He put up this video, this blog post talking about how to better TNA, and I just want to respond to some of the things that he had to say, and just where I disagree with him on some of the things that he says. So I'll post the link to the blog in the description box so you can go there and read it. And apologize for my voice. I'm tired. It was a long, frustrating day at work today, and it's like 9:30 p.m. right now. So I apologize if I just sound kind of tired. Okay. Alright, he says, what is TNA's brand right now? What is it that they do better than anyone else? They don't really have anything that they can point to and say, this is who we are and this is what we're about. It wasn't always the case. At one time they had the X Division and the fantastic Knockouts Division. But even in the past few years, these divisions have been reduced to afterthoughts within the company. Even the Tag Team Division isn't as strong as it was just a few years ago. Goes back to branding. Who are you and what do you do? Let's look at a company like ECW. ECW was significantly smaller than TNA is right now, yet their ability to brand themselves was excellent. You knew exactly what you were going to get when you watched the ECW product. It may not have always been the best show, but they knew what their audience wanted and they tried to give them that every single show. Compare that with TNA, who still is struggling to figure out who their audience is and how to best give them what they want. What TNA needs to do to fix this, to figure out what they want the brand to stand for in the minds of viewers and constantly give them the product they want show at the show. TNA can bring in all the former WWE guys they want, but it won't do as well as if they just deliver a strong brand performance. So, alright, now what I want to say in response to that is ECW is a horrible example to use because ECW was a company that failed. They were never a huge company. They never had a lot of success. Fans of ECW like to claim they were, but ECW was a failure of a company. They didn't sell tickets. They didn't make money. So using ECW as an example is just a horrible example to use in any case. The question I ask about the brand thing is this: what brand is there? Your what you say makes sense in theory, but in execution, what would it be? Spud, the question I would present to you is, what would you make that? I mean, you answer your own question. I mean, you take control of TNA tomorrow. Tell me the answer to that question. What do you do is what you say is, this is what we do better than anyone else, and this is who we are, and this is what we're about. You tell me what that would be if you're in charge. But my second question to you is, whatever you give as your answer, tell me why you feel that thing would be a viable path to take. So that's my question I asked to you. Tell me what you meant with that. Give me the answer to that question. If you were in charge, what would that be? What would be their brand? And tell me why you feel that brand would be a successful brand to have. I question if there is a brand for TNA, and in many ways I think that maybe there isn't. I think that you can do a good wrestling show. I personally enjoy TNA shows a lot as they are now. Impact is my favorite show to watch. My favorite wrestling show, at least. And where do you make that brand? Who's your demographic? Who's your target audience? You know, I mean, the people who aren't getting their feel from WWE is all you have left. You know, WWE is going for that PG crowd, that 18 to 34-year-old crowd that's pretty much watching UFC right now. You have small niche groups like Ring of Honor. You know, they focus on that group who just is all about the in-ring product. They focus on that group that only wants to see athleticism. That's a very small group, but Ring of Honor has molded their company to focus towards them, but it does leave the company stagnant. Ring of Honor only serves that one group, and because they only serve that one group, they really can't and won't ever really grow. And they'll probably make enough money to keep the company going, but how successful can they really be? Because they serve a group, but the group they serve is a very small group. TNA is trying to serve many different small groups. They could pick one, but they have to be willing to lose all of those other fans. You know, not everybody, you know, they could just focus on the X division and make that their thing, but that's a very small audience for that. It's a very, very small audience. I mean, if they want to really build around the X division, they would have to go PG, because the X division appeals mostly to children. But little kids love X Division. I've shown, I live in Korea and I work as an English teacher. And I remember last year when I showed some TNA wrestling to some kids who had never seen it. We were doing summer school classes and we had break time, but we couldn't go outside. And I had asked them what they wanted to do during break, and they said they wanted to watch some wrestling. So I showed them the Steel Asylum match from Hard Justice 2009. And when the match started, at first the kids groaned because it wasn't WWE. There's not much of a TNA presence here in Korea. The kids had never even heard of TNA. But like 3 minutes into the match, they went nuts over it. They loved the X Division stuff. They were just, every 5 seconds something they was doing, they were just screaming, just going, ooh, wow, wow. And, you know, they were seeing Boulder City Machine Guns do stuff, and then they lost their mind. But, you know, they also love Suicide. They thought he was Spider-Man at first, but, you know, they still liked him. And there's a market. They've never seen or heard of anybody in TNA, but they went nuts for it. And after that, they never asked to see WWE again. Every chance we got, they wanted to see more TNA. I showed them X Division stuff. They'd always go nuts for it. But okay, but you gotta say, if they do go PG and focus on that X Division stuff, to draw in a younger crowd. That's because they're the crowd who's gonna most be into it. I mean, the only way pushing the X Division can be viable is if you market it towards children. Adults just don't buy merchandise. Sorry, you need people who buy merchandise, and people my age, to 25 and year old in that age range, we don't buy. We really just don't buy a whole lot of merchandise. Not the amount that they need to be sustainable. But if you go PG, how many people are you going to turn off? A lot of people hate WWE being PG, and they want to be TNA to be more of the adult-oriented thing. But, you know, that's not really a viable option either. You know, I have an article up on Bleacher Report, and I've done a video here on YouTube is talking about why Attitude won't work for TNA. Plus, if they're just going to be just do the opposite of what WWE's doing, then they have to change every time WWE changes, and that means WWE will dictate what they're doing. But again, I reiterate, what's that goal? What's that direction? Who is the group that you look to and say, here's who we're going to market our product to, here's who we want as our fan base? I question that if there is any fan base that's large enough to make TNA sustainable. My argument and my response to that statement is the only fan bases available are the young demographic, which WWE already has, and the 18 to 34 male demographic, which is all watching UFC right now. I don't believe TNA has the money to compete with either of those companies and try to take away their fans, so those two are out. But with those two out, what's left? who's left for TNA to market their product to. What fan base is there left that's big enough that you can sustain the company? Let's see here. Have a plan. The only problem I have with this is that the thing that you criticize in your second part is directly contradictory to what you say in your first part, which is you say they throw a million things at the viewer and hope something clicks. Well, that's what they have to do. And if they're gonna find a brand and brand themselves and find a audience that they can market their product to, they have to figure out what people want, and they have to throw things at you to see what clicks. Well, here's what's clicking. They have to throw things at the artist to see what gets a big enough response. And once they see a particular thing getting a good enough response, they know, okay, let's focus on that. Now we know what seems to get better ratings, so we can figure out how to where to direct the product. 6 months now to be top guys. Do everything for 6 months to build up these guys. Alright, TNA can't worry about the ratings of pay-per-view buys. I have to disagree with you there. They don't have a choice. A much smaller company like TNA, they need every rating point and every pay-per-view buy they can get. Again, can they survive that transition period? If you're saying that during that transition period, pay-per-view buys are going to drop and TV ratings are going to drop, can they survive that drop? I mean, is Spike TV going to stick it out with them long enough to say, look, this is what we're going to do and this is going to be great later, but for the short term, we're going to lose a lot of ratings points, because in order for us to pick one direction and go with it, we're going to lose a large part of our fan base. One of the things about TNA that's good about this is that they try to appeal to many different people. If they pick one group, they're going to have to alienate all of the other groups. That you can't please all the people all the time, so they try to please just some of the people some of the time, or all of the people some of the time. They just go for it and say, okay, we're going to do this for you today and this for somebody later. And I partially agree. You can't try to please everybody at once. But once they pick who they're going to please, everybody else is going to stop watching. Everybody who doesn't get picked is going to leave. And I wonder, can they survive that? And is there any one group that's big enough that they'll be able to sustain them as the only group that TNA markets their product to? Hang on, let me take a drink. See here. Construct a roster. Easier said than done. There's plenty of available wrestling talents out there. Tons, actually. So getting a good roster is really easy. It doesn't really matter. As far as the construct a roster, I don't really have a complaint there. Except with your last thing about WWE cast-offs. No WWE cast-offs that don't fit the TNA's plans. The only problem I have with that statement is the IWC as a whole. This is not really saying this. I'm not saying TNA should do it. I actually agree with it. What annoys me about that statement is that the IWC is going to bash them for not hiring ex-WWE guys. The whole thing about ex-WWE guys is a no-win situation for TNA, because when it comes to ex-WWE talent, no matter what they do, they're going to get bashed. Because if they hire the ex-WWE guy, they get bashed. If they push him, they get bashed. If they don't push him, they get bashed. And if they don't hire him, they get bashed. I mean, how many people have bashed TNA this year because they didn't sign Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin? Haas and Benjamin signed with Ring of Honor, and I've heard nothing but people bashing TNA, talking about why didn't you hire Haas and Benjamin? So it's like that issue is like a no-win situation for TNA. So it just bugs me when I hear that. I'm not disagreeing with that statement. It just bugs me when I hear it. Let's see here. Respect for the titles, Can't really disagree with you too much on that one. I like people to treat the belts important. Titles, belts are props to help progress storylines and get guys over, and they don't work if people don't care about them. So you need to always make sure people care about who holds your belt. Let's see here. I disagree with you about the whole titles of episodes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the titles of episodes. WWE's all their show episodes have titles too. They just don't show the episode at the beginning of the show. If you actually can see WWE clips where they show the production info at the beginning of the episode, every episode of WWE Raw and SmackDown has a title, but they don't show them on air. Just so you know. But every episode has a title. Let's see here. And I don't think having a title, showing the title of an episode, really hurts to show it at all. I mean, it's just something that you personally don't like, but there's no legitimate I don't think you can make a legitimate argument of how showing the title of the episode hurts the product. So the show is taped. So what? The show people knowing that the show is taped doesn't hurt the product. If the show is good, you're not gonna care that it's taped. Every fucking show on television is taped, except the news and shit. But why would you care? This is one of those things where it's a nitpicky thing because you're not satisfied with the product. If you were loving TNA and everything they did, you wouldn't care about them showing episode titles. It's something you notice because you're not happy with the product. Too many backstage segments. I somewhat agree with you. Taz sucks. I totally agree with that. Actually, if you saw that clip on Explosion from a few weeks ago where they filmed the match at the house show, it was like Jeff Jarrett versus Ken Anderson, and the commentators were Don West and Jeremy Borash. I really liked them there together. It was really good. See if you can find that episode of Explosion online somewhere. It was a match it was Jeff Jarrett versus Ken Anderson, and the special guest referee was Kurt Angle. And the commentators for the match were Don West and Jeremy Borash, and I thought they worked very well together. Pay-per-views. TNA cannot cut half the pay-per-views. They are contractually obligated to do 12 pay-per-views a year. Dixie Carter, Vince Russo, and Eric Bischoff have all gone on record saying that they do not like doing 12 pay-per-views a year. They have all gone on record saying that they would like to reduce the number of pay-per-views a year. But Dixie Carter has explained to them more than once that when they got the original pay-per-view deal to be on pay-per-view, they were only able to get a deal that required 12 pay-per-views a year. Until that deal runs out and they're able to renegotiate, try to negotiate a second one, they are forced to do 12 pay-per-views a year. If they do not do 12 pay-per-views a year, they will be in breach of contract and be sued. I don't disagree with the whole thing about removing pay-per-views. I actually 100% agree with you. I think doing pay-per-views every other month would be better. But that is not an option right now. They are contractually obligated to do 12 pay-per-views a year. I do not know how long their contract lasts for. But Dixie Carter has said in interviews, I've heard 2 separate interviews where Dixie Carter talks about it, but in neither interview did she say how long the contract was for. So the best is that, like I said, Dixie Carter, Vince Russo, and Eric Bischoff have all gone on record saying that they do not like doing 12 pay-per-views a year, and that they all have gone on record saying that they want to reduce them. But due to contractual obligations, that is just not an option right now. To follow up, my whole thing with this is that it's easier said than done. You also have to ask yourself how many people would be lost during the transition. How many people will be turned off by what you turn TNA to, because everybody has their ideas about how to fix TNA. Everybody has their vision, but people have to understand that not all wrestling fans are alike. The things you think would make the company great are things that other people would hate. You know, I hated ECW. I think ECW is overglorified, shitty indie fed. I think ECW doesn't deserve half the the praise that they get. It was shitty wrestling. It was garbage wrestling. They never drew money. They never made a fucking dime. And to this day, Paul Heyman still owes people money. I don't get why people go so fucking balls out nuts over ECW. ECW fucking sucked. If ECW had, and if I'm wrong, well, hell, if I were wrong, they'd still exist. My thing with the whole identity and branding is that I asked the question, is there anyone for TNA to brand their product to, other than who they target their product to now? If you take away the people they watch now, who the hell's left? You know, I really am not into that, although that hardcore blood stuff that they do. I'm glad they've cut down on that since the business has been gone. Hope he stays going too, personally. I could use that TV title back if he could, you know, mail that back to him. That'd be nice, but, you know, that's another topic. That wanting to bring back old ECW guys, but I also recognize, as much as I hate it, there's a lot of people who love it. There are people who to this day will sit here and tell you that ECW was the greatest wrestling promotion ever and that nothing else has ever come close, and that's people who only watch TNA because the old ECW guys are there. And I can't totally hate on it because I was a big fan of WCW. I have no problem bringing back, you know, they want to bring back an old WCW guy. I'm always happy to see him. Hell, I mean, I don't think it's the best move for business, but I like that Sting came back. And I like that he won the title. Like I said, I don't think it was a great business move, but but for pure entertainment value, just be as a fan, I fucking love it. I'm glad Star Steiner came back too. I'm fans of these dudes. These are dudes I grew up watching that I've always been fans of them over. Like I said, I don't think they're the best thing for business, but fuck, I'm not running the company. I'm talking to you as a fan. I fucking love Scott Steiner. I like seeing him back. And I love Sting. And I like seeing him beat Jeff Hardy and win the goddamn title. Not into all that X Division stuff, though. You know? I mean, if I took control of TNA tomorrow, I would probably phase that out. But I also understand that if you take away the X Division, how much of TNA's fan base do they lose? And is there someone you can replace those fans with? That's my question. In the process of making big changes, you are going to turn off some fans. You're going to lose a significant number of your fans. And I asked the question, is there anyone that they can replace those fans with? And I guess my question to you is to give me the details. For each thing you said, I'd like to hear details. Who is your direction? You say they need to decide who they are and what did they do. Well, if you took control of TNA tomorrow, what would the answer to that question be? You know, you say they need to pick 6 guys and focus everything on building up those 6 guys for the next 6 months. I ask you, who would those 6 men be? And I ask you why those 6 men. Why do you feel those are the best 6 men to focus on, as opposed to not focus on everybody else? Because you said focus on just those 6 guys, building up just those 6 guys, and not focus on building up anyone else. Who are your 6 guys, and why do you feel they should be the first ones focused on above all of the people on the roster? And I should probably wrap this video up because I'm gonna get into rambling pretty soon, and I am already at how long? 24 minutes. Yeah. So, SpudJohnson, I'd like to hear your response. So, thank you for listening. Have a nice day.